Ketamine is a depressor of consciousness. It's an anesthetic. Probably you've heard about it because nowadays it became really popular to treat different affections with this particular substance. It is being used throughout the world to treat different issues regarding anxiety, depression, or chronic pain. What is very important to understand is that ketamine is not on the category of an expansor of consciousness. It is what we call a depressor of consciousness, being a substance that is going to shut down my system, to switch off my brain. The perspective of ketamine, if we want to explain it regarding dimensions, for example, is one of going to a place of abstraction. So normally I operate throughout several concepts and conceptualizations, and throughout them I create the idea of who I am, and I create the context where I interact and where I move. So I structure my identity throughout concepts and conceptualizations. These two are anchored with emotions, thoughts, and physical sensations and experiences. That is cellular memory. When I use ketamine, what happens is that I erase conceptualizations and I remain with the most basic aspects of the concepts that construct my idea of life or my identity. So, for example, if I am depressed, in order to be depressed, I need to be obsessed with a particular issue around my own identity, my ego self. So when I am over identified with a story or a trauma that I have experienced, well, then I am obsessed with that experience that becomes overwhelming, and then I am trapped in that hell. And all that structure is held together by the conceptualizations I am making of the story I lived. So I might have suffered trauma, but there's something very important. How did I integrate it or heal that trauma is crucial in order for me to develop a state of anxiety and depression, or to use it in order to evolve my consciousness. So, when I am trapped in the conceptualizations of my victim mode, then I enter into these spaces that I cannot leave or exit on my own because I feel I am being engulfed by the whole experience of my conceptualizations. So, for example, poor of me, my abuse, what has been done to me, what has been taken away from me, if I'm living throughout a grieving process, well, then it's poor of me who has taken this away from me. So, all of that is a conceptualization, for example, of a circumstance of life, of a death that is something it's away from my control. Okay. So when I use ketamine, I have to let go of this drama because that drama is shut down. The substance puts me into a sleep state in which my system lets go of conceptualizations, and then I remain with the very basic concepts of the ego self. And it is like turning the computer off or shutting it off and then turning it on again. So it's a chance for me to detach, to find distance from my own perspective of my own life. And sometimes a lot of my suffering comes from my secondary pain body, which is not only the trauma I lived, but the anxiety of the trauma or the fear of the trauma. What this means is a lot of our suffering comes from our own mental creations and perceptions. So when I'm able to shut all that way of thinking off, I have the opportunity to restructure how do I perceive reality, to restructure the narrative of who I am, to restructure the narrative of my life. So ketamine in itself will erase the trauma, will bring me out of my depression and shift the way my brain is working regarding the neurotransmitters and my serotonin levels and all of that. No, not necessarily. But when I detach from a state of profound suffering, my whole system is going to suffer changes, and I have the possibility to restore well being in a lot of the areas of my being. Now, what is extremely important about ketamine, if it is used for therapeutic purposes, is to have a therapeutic companion. You need to hold the hand of a therapist that is going to walk you through the reconceptualization of your own life and your own self. Because remember, this is the opportunity to shut off the system, to shut off your drama and go back and say, do I really want to go there? Do I really want to see my trauma from that perspective? Is that bringing me some good? Is it doing good to my own body, mind, and spirit? Well, maybe not. Well, then maybe I have an opportunity to rewrite the narrative of my own life. But it's extremely important to hold the hand of a therapist in order to do that. And by all means, the recreational use of depressors of consciousness are not recommended because they do induce depressive states after using them. And particularly, what I have explained to you about ketamine, if you're partying and you're out there mixing substances and you include in your cocktail ketamine, well, you're going to enter into an abstraction realm. And the abstraction realm, it's not fun. It's not fun to suddenly not know who you are and where you are at. So a lot of um, crises of anxiety and even psychosis can be triggered by the recreational use of this substance. So watch out.